We begin in Iraq, where the latest developments are stoking fears of a wider regional conflict. Syrian warplanes reportedly struck several border areas inside Iraq this week. Meantime, U.S. officials say Iran is stepping up its support of the country's Shia-led government. CCTV's Jim Spellman is here now with the latest.
Mike, the crisis in Iraq is threatening to become a full-blown regional conflict as Syria and Iran begin to play a role in the escalating battle between Sunni militant group ISIL and the Shiite-led Iraqi government. As Iraqi forces work to push back ISIL, sources say Syrian fighter jets have targeted several ISIL-controlled towns along Iraq's border with Syria, killing at least 57 civilians and wounding more than 120. Damascus has denied the planes were Syrian, but the UN has confirmed they were not Iraqi. And according to the New York Times, Iran has been making regular deliveries of military supplies to Baghdad, 2 flights a day with 70 tons worth of supplies per flight. Battles continue to rage across Iraq, including at the Baiji oil refinery. Meantime, about 90 U.S. military advisors have arrived in Iraq. That number will eventually grow to about 300. While Iranian troops mass near Iran's border with Iraq. In Baghdad, Prime Minister Nouri al-Maliki seemed to reject calls to form a unity government that would include Sunnis, Shiites, and Kurds.
It is not a secret to Iraqis the grave intentions harbored behind the call for the formation of a so-called government of national salvation. It is an attempt to eliminate our nascent democracy and to ignore voters' opinions.
U.S. officials have pressured Maliki to form a unity government, implying that U.S. airstrikes against ISIL won't happen unless progress is made.
We need to remember that ISIL is a terrorist army that threatens not only Iraq, but threatens every country in the region which is opposed to it, and Europe and the United States. Succeeding in this fight is going to require Iraqis to come together, finally, in order to form an inclusive government.
Maliki's resistance to a unity government is leading many in Iraq and in the international community to wonder if he can survive as prime minister. There's growing pressure for him to step aside, Mike.
Well, Jim, let's talk about these 90 troops from the U.S. They're now there to advise Iraqi troops. What can you tell us about them?
These are special forces troops, and the Pentagon won't comment on exactly what role they will play, but we do know that the U.S. has begun flying regular surveillance missions over ISIL-controlled parts of Iraq, and so have the Iranians, Mike.
Jim Spellman live from our newsroom. Thank you.